Now, here is going to be our first of the little lore snippets. Obviously, I won't be covering anything in extensive detail, but again, this is a lore channel, so it's lore time. Get your textbooks out. Riften, as we see it during the events of Skyrim, run down, filled with beggars and struggling to stay afloat, is a relatively new situation for the city. It was, for most of history, a prospering port city. The decline of the city can be traced back a mere 103 years to the assassination of the Jarl. A man called Hoskin Crossed Daggers would take his place and begin to hike taxes and use the city guard with extreme force. Hoskin would then order a large wooden palace be built for him, which, due to his harsh ruling, would be burned down along with the rest of the city. This would be known as the Crossed Daggers Rebellion, and is why the Crossed Daggers symbol is so prevalent in the city. Whilst the Reachmen have been around for almost as long as the Reach itself, the name Forsworn has only been around for around 25 years. These natives of the Reach realized that the Great War being fought between the Empire and the Aldmeri Dominion was the perfect time to take the city of Markarth. Of course, after the end of the Great War, the Nords wanted Markarth back, so they sent one Ulfric Stormcloak to take it from them. Ulfric was brutal in this conflict, employing torture and killing civilians and any children he thought were old enough to wield a blade. This series of events would lead to these Reachmen rebels becoming the Forsworn. Skyhaven Temple was built by the ancient Akaviri Dragon Guard, who would later go on to become the Blades. This temple was both an outpost against the dragons they hunted, as well as supposedly a place of reverence towards Riemann Cyrodiil I, his likeness being used for the entrance. It also houses Alduin's Wall, a record of the prophecy of the Dragonborn. A little after the wall was finally completed, the temple would even receive a visit from Emperor Riemann Cyrodiil II. And that is where today's video ends. Do leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Parthenax, whose name means Ambition, Overlord, Cruelty, is the master of the Greybeards, teaching the way of the voice for millennia. Before this though, he still taught the Thu'um, helping his fellow dragons to strengthen their voices, though back then for a far more nefarious purpose. Yes, Parthenax was Alduin's lieutenant, and supposedly a cruel one at that, as his naming would imply. Parthenax, however, strayed from this path, helping the ancient Nord heroes to fight back against Alduin's dragon cult. Since then, he has gone on to study the Way of the Voice as founded by Jurgen Windcaller, and has even helped to instruct Tiber Septim himself. Man. The Elder Scrolls are hard to fully describe, especially in a short section like this. I do have an entire video on the subject, but I will play the conclusion from that video here and link it so you can go and get the full context if you wish. Remember all the way back in Arena how we were told that our actions were being recorded in the Elder Scrolls? That's what they are, a record of the existence of the universe, ever changing because fate and chance and choice and consequence are ever changing. The Elder Scrolls are the fabric of the universe. They are infinite and eternal. They contain more knowledge than the gods because they contain everything that could possibly be known. Alduin, whose name means Destroyer, Devourer, Master, probably needs his own video, honestly, but he is essentially the Apocalypse. Or at least he's supposed to be. Turns out when you have something that powerful who also likes enslaving things, they just sort of enslave things instead, which is exactly what happened during the Dragon Cult. This led to those Nord heroes we mentioned earlier banishing him forwards in time with an Elder Scroll, which led to, well, everything you've seen so far, as well as this upcoming confrontation. The Great War began 30 years prior to the events of Skyrim and lasted for around 4 years. The war was between the Empire of Cyrodiil and the Thalmor.
War began the 30th of Frostfall when a Thalmor ambassador brought the severed heads of every Blades agent in Somerset and Valenwood to a meeting with the Emperor. During this war, Ulfric Stormcloak would leave his teachings with the Greybeards to go and fight, but was captured and interrogated by Elenwen, who would go on to be the Thalmor's ambassador to Skyrim. The information he gave the Thalmor was more or less useless to them, but told him that he had given them information that was critical to the taking of the Imperial capital. The war would culminate with the Battle of the Red Ring, in which the Empire would take back their capital in an attack that, whilst successful, left both armies weakened. This would lead to the peace treaty of the White Gold Concordat. That treaty would greatly favour the Dominion and ban the worship of the hero god of mankind, Talos. Dragon's Reach, or at least part of it, was built to house the dragon Numinex. Numinex was said to have terrorized the plains of Whiterun, and so Olaf One-Eye, the Jarl of Whiterun at the time, went to do battle with him atop Mount Anthor. It's entirely unknown how Olaf managed to get Numinex back to Whiterun to imprison him, but imprison him he did. The dragon was said to be there for so long that he began to lose his mind from isolation, despite visits from Parthenax. But eventually the dragon must have been killed, as his skull now resides above the Jarl's throne, which does bring into question how Alduin reviving him might work. Maybe he just can't in this case. That would have been nice to know before the Blades buried the bones of each dragon all nice and snug with each other in their own burial mounds.
Sovngarde, the afterlife of the Nords. As with many of the race's preferred afterlives, Sovngarde is located within Aetherius, and, unlike the other afterlives, was said to have been the creation of Shor, the Nordic interpretation of Lorkhan. It is a place of eternal feasting and glorious battle. It is said that only true Nords may enter when they die, those who have led worthy lives or died in heated battle. Some believing that one day Shor will return and lead them into glorious battle once more. But it is possible for some to arrive by other means, as we have.